All right, today I want to talk about part of me that I guess is like contributing to the most of why I feel like it may be helpful to have this series, not only for myself, but for other people. But it's just understanding how brains work. And I feel like mine is very weird, especially socially. And I think that I am a neurodivergent person, and I think that may be like a good part of the reason as to why everything's so weird for myself. But I want to disclaim that I don't speak for every neurodivergent person in anything that I say today, and I also don't speak for I don't speak to claim that I am an expert on the topic. I just kind of want to share my own lived experience today. But I think that something that I've kind of been struggling with recently has just been occupying space. And I think that might be, I don't know, a no-brainer for some people to just be like, oh yeah, of course you exist in this space socially, conversationally, and maybe you don't even think about the concept, and you're just like, that's how you talk with people, that's how you interact, that's how you socialize. But for me, I feel like, especially in group dynamics, occupying space is not a straightforward thing. Then I kind of have to think about the space that I'm occupying. I have to think about the way that I show up, and how people perceive me, and especially in a group setting where there are multiple people part of the equation, part of the conversation. Now I have to think about the perception of X person and Y person at the same time, not even them, just them individually. And so occupying space is something that I find very difficult, and I don't know, something that I'd like to be not as difficult, because the difficulty around it, I think, also has to do with authenticity. For me, is I feel like I'm having to put on a sort of social facade in front of people to people please, because at the end of the day, I also, like, I've been a people pleaser, I'm a recovering people pleaser, um just kind of struggling to figure out what being social means for me. And when I mean me, I mean the non people pleasing me. And so yes, socializing, occupying space is kind of difficult, because I feel like the part of me for the longest time has been navigating social environments in a way to, like, hold on to this social facade, and be the person that I want to be in front of X person or Y person. And sometimes those are different facades, and I don't know, I just want to be able to eliminate the idea of having facades, and maybe they're not even facades, maybe they are genuine to me. And I think that's also something that I'm, like, kind of working through, because as fearful as I am that I'm faking the personality that I am in front of the people that I'm around, I think it's also just fair to have a preference for how I show up with certain people. And it's not that I have to always be X, Y, or Z person, but I feel like I almost compartmentalize my emotions and fine tune my emotions to meet where the other person is. And so when I find myself in social spaces, in group environments, it becomes difficult for me because I'm having to manage all of these compartmentalized personalities that I have. And the more that I try to navigate through this, I think the more that I'm realizing that while it is a struggle of authenticity because I show up in a different way around different people, it's also just, I don't know, kind of just finding the average of all of my personalities. And for a while, I guess I wasn't really intentional or really understanding why navigating social spaces in groups was so hard for me. But more recently, I've realized that it is because I'm like having to manage all of my, I guess, internal personalities. And so in navigating all of this, it's just something that I want for myself is to be able to, I guess, average them all out and really find who I am, because like I said before, I don't think that any compartment of who I am or any facade that I put on, I don't think they're untrue to who I am, but I think they might be exaggerated, different versions. And I don't know, maybe it's not the end of the world. Maybe people do find themselves showing up in different ways around different people, and that's just kind of the nature of friendships, of relationships. But for me, it's just become very difficult to navigate that socially. And I don't know, I guess I might just be talking roundabout at this point. But the goal is to find some sense of authenticity in the average of all of the facades that I pull up. Because I just find myself in a situation where I'm hanging out with a friend and I'm just like, I know that my friend likes video games, and obviously, like, you can see, like, I'm a content creator. I play video games a lot. It's a pretty big part of my, like, who I am just in general. And so I can relate better with someone that I know that plays video games, that like culturally is around that, is online, knows about, I don't know, just the way that people talk online. And so it's kind of easier to relate in that way, as opposed to like hanging out with a friend that I met working, or a friend that I met volunteering, or doing something out in the world. That's a very different context I've met them in. That's a very different, I don't know, vocabulary. It's almost like a different brain that I'm using to exist in that space. So in the situations where I do end up like having to overlap people from different part of my lives, it becomes like, it's become apparent to me that it's very difficult to actually be who I am, because I'm so separated, or at least my personalities are. And I don't love that. I'd like to be able to be who I am all the time, without filter, authentic. Yeah, and just be me. And so I don't really know how to navigate it, but for now I think addressing it, acknowledging it's been more helpful in like realizing that, hey, this person knows you in this context. Maybe sometimes you just need to preface a joke or like give context to a situation, but that doesn't mean that I have to like eliminate that part, you know? And I think it's just an internal struggle with people pleasing too, because it's like, how can I please two people that I know in two very different contexts? And that's just like, that's so much work and it's so exhausting, and I don't need to be putting in all of the work for that for no reason. Or at least not the amount of work that I put into it right now. So I don't know, just something that I continue to work through, of finding out who I really am, of finding out all of the ways that I'd like to show up and who I really want to be. I don't know. I'm just a guy. Play video games. I think a lot. But I also like to hang out with people. And I like to hang out with people when I talk about video games, when I talk about movies, when I talk about anime, when I talk about reading books, when I'm working out, when I'm volunteering. So just create for a lot of different types of people that I interact with in my life. It makes it hard, socially, especially being neurodivergent, because oftentimes I also do feel like I just kind of am awkward socially, period. I don't know. Yeah, there wasn't really a train of thought, and there probably never will be. Maybe I'll eventually get good enough at this, at talking, to get to a conclusion instead of just yapping and not having anything at the end. But that's a little peek into my internal struggles of group social dynamics. Always thank you for watching. Thanks for anyone listening and making me part of their lives, even if it is just for a couple minutes. I hope that at the very least I could be a relatable person, or I'm crazy and the comments will tell me that. Either way, thanks for watching. Peace.